Ladies and gentlemen, HEX community of all ages, hey, Jake Freedom here, coming to you live from YouTube for another HEX update Saturday for January 25th, 2014. This week's patch here was kind of big. We didn't get a patch last week due to the largeness of this patch and how many things are actually going to come out in it. So we got some game changes, we got some UI changes, we got some changes to some cards, and of course we did get a few new cards as well. And also probably the biggest part of this patch here was the sealed deck play, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. But first, let's go over some of the patch notes and see what CZE had to say about it. So obviously, we got sealed deck tournaments have been added here. Players can enter a sealed deck tournament and you'll get 6 booster packs, and you'll be able to build a tournament deck of 40 cards. That's all we'll have there. Also, they did a reconnect is in. If you get disconnected from a game and you log back in within 5 minutes, you can reconnect to that game. I haven't yet seen it work properly. I've only tried to play a couple of the sealed deck tournaments, and if you do get disconnected and you come back in, it tries to reconnect there, but it hasn't actually worked. I think maybe the tournament may have bugged out. I'm not real exactly sure there. So some of the general things here in the patch notes here is the prep phase is back. A lot of people were complaining that the prep phase was gone and that they utilized that a lot for their gameplay and strategy. So CZE has brought it back in there, but just remember it's defaulted to off. So you actually have to go in and change that stop timer to stop for the prep phase there, or also just skip by it like it was never added back in. Also, the Nellybringe Skirmisher can now be added and saved to your deck. New sound effects have been added all throughout the game, and normally I don't play with the sound on. But I did turn it on once I turned it back on once they said this here, and the sound effects are getting way better. I haven't heard them probably, I don't know, in 2 months maybe. So yeah, they're getting a lot better. Some of the animations are getting better. They changed a few things throughout the game there, like when you lay a shard down, the little threshold guy goes and lands on the board there. That's really kind of neat, and it does play a little bit of a sound. The music seems to loop a little bit better. And just all around different sound assets have been added into the game to make it feel a little bit more polished there, and it definitely is working. Also, opposing cards can no longer ready incorrectly after switching ownership. This seemed to be a problem when with Mancubus and things like that, I believe. Also, zoom out is now lined up correctly with the visual indicator in-game. The client now checks for death-reducing instances and improper death correctly. This one here is kind of weird. Players can now mulligan to 0 cards in their hand. I'm not exactly sure why you'd want to do this, but I guess before, if you did this, the game would crash or fail or something like that. If you have to mulligan to 0, you might as well just bail out anyway. I mean, the chances of you probably going to win is going to be slim. So I'm not sure why they'd even do that. I'm sure they did that because some people have tried it and it crashed the game, so now they've allowed it. Let's see, the deck drop-down menu while queuing for a quick match now correctly appears. What that basically was is when you'd go, instead of play AI or challenge somebody, you just click play now, and then throw you into a queue, and you'd select your deck, and it didn't work properly. You'd have to just use your arrow keys. The mouse wouldn't actually work in there, so they've got that fixed, which is good. Also, game text is now correctly shown again on cards, not game text, gem text. They took that away last patch for some reason. I don't think it was on purpose. I think it was just a mistake. So they got that back in there, which is good, because it's always tough to tell. Okay, what does that gem do? You don't know unless you have the gems memorized, which I don't. Let's see here. Action cards that are targeting something on the chain now correctly show that they're targeting. And basically what they're saying there is when you play an action card, it goes up on the chain and it has a little gray indicator line to point out what card it's going to affect. That went away as well. I think, again, that was not on purpose, just something that happened there. Players can no longer incorrectly name 2 decks with the same name. I've never tried it, so I didn't even know that was an issue. Player ranking is now disabled, or player ranking is now displayed correctly in tournaments. Game timers are now enforced. If your chess timer runs out, you lose the match. If you have no action within 5 minutes, you lose the game. That's probably good, because there have been a lot of complaints about people going AFK or maybe losing connection. They just kind of got to sit there. So that's good. Also, tournaments will now progress correctly if one player loses connection or drops from the tournament. That's a good deal too, because a lot of times before, you'd get, to the last stage of an actual tournament and then it would bug out and you'd be like, oh, I just spent an hour and a half, and now we can't even finish the tournament, which was kind of a bummer deal. So hopefully that corrects that issue there. Also, players should no longer see incorrect health totals for champions. The Prime Blood Orb of Brutality has been removed. This gem here has been giving some fits for some reason, so they finally just pulled it out now, and they're just going to maybe tweak it and try to get it back working properly. When a card triggers its rage ability, it no longer incorrectly goes to the chain. And also the chat. I'm not really a big fan about this chat thing, but chat now has some control over it for how long it's showing and how opaque it is. And we can go ahead and try to demonstrate that here and just show you what I'm talking about. Let's bring up the chat window. Before, this little cog icon or the gear icon here in the upper right hand corner, you never really did anything, but now if you click on it, it brings you up, two sliders, one for opacity and one for how long it's going to fade out. So you got between 2 and 5 seconds for fade out, and then you have how opaque you want to actually make the chat window here, which is kind of nice. One thing though is the X there wasn't working prior. When I first loaded up the game, you'd click the X and it wouldn't do anything. Well, now it's actually working, but before you just have to click the cog icon again to get it to go away. But so that's good. They've got that kind of polished up there. Also, the past priority buttons are more intuitive, and it's kind of nice. And let's go ahead and load up a quick game here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll just go ahead and play the AI real quick with just the demo dwarf deck here. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and keep your hand. We're not really in it to win it here, but we'll show you what I mean by the past priority. Okay, so prep phase, I've got it turned back on. If nobody's familiar with how to turn your phases, how to mess with your phase timers, you can go click this little yellow button right here, not the yellow one. Manage phase stops right here, and then you can go ahead and turn these on. And by default, they have the ready phase unchecked there. So just go ahead and put that dot there, and it'll stop at your prep phase there. So we'll go to pass priority off. That one seems the same. Now here it is right here. Here's a new one here. So it says proceed to next main phase. Obviously this is our first main phase. So obviously we can lay a gem or a shard, and then we can proceed to our next main phase. We can't do anything in our second main phase. So then it says proceed to end phase, and we'll pass priority off to our opponent there. Now the really cool one is when you actually lay a card down, like this one here. Okay, he's gonna burn me, and it's saying okay, resolve burn before we just say pass priority. I think they're doing this to encourage new players to be able to give them a visual feel on how the actual game is working, and what am I passing priority on, why am I doing this, what's it actually doing. Well, if this just said pass priority, most of us know what it's going to do, but now this one here is okay. Now that it says resolve burn, it's more intuitive, so now you know what's actually going on. So that's kind of nice that they did that. I think maybe they should put in like how much help you need in the game. Like I need no help, I need some help, I need a lot of help. So they can maybe switch that out of there, so you don't always have to see that. Whether or not they'll do something like that or not, I'm not sure. So yeah, that's kind of neat that they did that. We'll just go ahead and show you on our side here when we lay actual card down. Just lay that Sapphire, and then we'll go ahead and lay Technical Genius, and again it says resolve Technical Genius, and he gets laid down there. Proceed to next main phase. So yeah, it's kind of cool that they did that. I do like it, and like I said, it will help out new players a lot that are just trying to figure out what's actually happening in the game there. So also, let's go over some gameplay changes before we get to those new cards there, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the sealed deck stuff. So some gameplay changes would be the Prime Diamond of Celerity no longer incorrectly triggers or stacks when it is not supposed to. Farani now works correctly. Buccaneer's game text is now correctly optional, which is nice, because before when you played Buccaneer, if there was no troop to actually target, you'd have to target yourself and you bounce the card back to yourself. So now you can actually say no, I don't want to have to target a troop, kind of similar to how is it the Bombsmith? I think he has that. He has an optional text there. Uranaz no longer incorrectly gains Inspire effects when bringing Inspire troops into play. Also, Uranazes that were targeted by an opposing Uranaz no longer behave incorrectly. Let's see, the Cerulean Mentalist ability No longer incorrectly uses the chain. Monkey of 9 tails now correctly transforms a troop into a monkey of 9 tails. I've never actually played that card, but I knew there were some issues with it, and people are talking about how to actually do that properly. Also, Princess Victoria now correctly inspires troops when its game text reduces its cost to 0. So pretty much if you have Princess Victoria in your opening hand, she costs 0. Before what was happening, she originally cost 3, so when she costed 0 and you played her at 0, troops still had to be 3 or greater to be inspired by her, but now it looks like they fixed that, so now you can play 1 cost troops and they'll still be inspired by her. Additional damage is no longer incorrectly applied after initial death when playing Immortality. Prior gameplay states are now retained when an incantation transforms. So I'm guessing what they're talking about there is if you like revert it, it goes back to what it should be, or something like that. I'm not sure. Noble citizenry ability now correctly goes on the chain. Zoltog's creation of a savage rider no longer prevents the game from progressing. Legionnaire of Guan now correctly deals damage when being inspired by the Cerulean Grand Strategist. Also, sync issues have been resolved in the following cards: Stone Skin, Arcane Shield, and Yesterday. There are still some sync issues out there. They're getting better, and as the alpha game progresses on down the development life cycle, those will all be corrected. So, not too worried about that. Troops can no longer incorrectly use activated abilities during the first opposing turn after they're entered. So, what would be an example there? Maybe like the Kraken, when he lays down his tentacles, you wouldn't be able to use his activated ability on the defending side of it. Maybe what they're talking about. Something like that. Pretty much what they're saying is the card has to go full turn before it can do anything with an activated ability. Let's see here. Fiendish Kabbalist's ability will now work correctly if it is returned to a player's hand. Bloodbearer no longer will grant its effect from the graveyard. Resurrection no longer prevents the game from progressing. A couple known issues that they still have out there is Farony will not correctly account for created artifacts. Transforming a socketed troop will cause the game to stop responding. Okay, you can't currently drop or forfeit from a tournament. Rune Ear commanders that are created from Uzume, Grand Concubunny, instantly die. Created troops from Uzume, Grand Concubunny, and Wretched Blood can incorrectly attack the turn they come into play. So we got to watch out for that. Try not to take advantage of that. If you forget, some people might get a little angry at you. Okay, so on to the new cards. There's only 3 of them, which isn't horrible. And I've seen these cards before because every now and again there's these hex puzzles I look at and I'm like, gosh, these cards come out and like, these cards look really familiar. So let's go ahead and pull up the first one, and it's going to be Inquisition. I believe this is the blood card. View him. Inquisition. He is blood card. 2 cost, 2 threshold, basic action. Card text reads: target opposing champion reveals their hand. Choose a non-resource card from it. They discard that card. Could be, it's a decent card. I don't mind this one at all. Again, I don't play a lot of blood. I'm not a huge blood shard fan, but it is kind of powerful. I do like all the cards. This card text here, the card art's kind of neat on it. I like it as well. So for 2 costs, 2 threshold to remove a card out of your opponent's hand, I think that's well within the bell curve of having cards costing the amount and proper threshold for what they can do. I don't know how many people will probably play this one. I'm sure people will try it out. Basically, it's a card for a card, and hopefully you can take something that, 3 cost or 4 cost or something like that. It would be great for if you were playing against like an escalation deck. You can pull one of those escalation cards out of there. If you're playing against another blood deck, you maybe can pull some removals, some target removals, some board clear out of there. You never know. So it's not a situational card. It's very flexible. So I think it will be used probably more than I think it would be used. So yeah, I like it. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll probably give that one a 6 or 7. Not that I normally scale or judge cards by numbers, but I decided to do that there. Next one here, Survival of the Fittest. This one here is, I didn't want to put it in my deck. I want to view it. This one here is a wild card, 2 cost, 1 threshold, quick action. Target troop you control battles another target troop. So it kind of functions like the Crazed Squirrel, where when the Crazed Squirrel comes into play, you target a troop and they battle. So basically, you can take this one here and target, like, say you want to have you have a Tyrannosaurus Rex or Tyrannosaurus Hex on your field there, on your board. Then you go ahead and target him. Then you target another card on the opposing player's board. They'll battle and they'll just basically do damage to each other, and somebody's probably going to win and whatnot. So hopefully that's going to be you. Or it's going to be a wash and they'll both die. And, would it be a fair trade for you to spend 2 cards to get one? You got to look into that there. So 2 cost, 1 threshold. I think this is a good card for sure. It's cheap enough, and since it's only 1 threshold, I could see this card probably being splashed into some of their decks rather than just being, in the wild deck there. So I like that card a lot. Next one here is a Sapphire card, and it is the Shrewd Manipulation, and he is a constant, 2 cost, 1 Sapphire threshold. Choose and discard 2 cards, ready or exhaust target artifact or troop. So this could be used for you, and it can be used, how should I say this? So it can be used for your cards, or it can be used, against your opponent's cards. So, like, say for example, you have this out here, and they have, I don't know, some type of artifact out there. The only way I can think of right now would be Argus or Eternal Guardian. Maybe you can exhaust them so they can't do anything to you. I mean, Eternal Guardian really wouldn't matter. You're not going to be able to do any damage anyway. But Argus, you could see something like that. For artifact troops anyway. Discarding 2 cards though, just to exhaust a target card. That's kind of expensive to me. I don't want to lose 2 cards just to be able to exhaust, unless it was going to be a win condition where I'm going to win. Okay, I'm going to lose 2 cards, but I'm going to win anyway. This is not something you want to play, all the time and just keep throwing 2 cards away. Not the kind of game style that I would want there, unless I had some type of, permanent card draw. You can maybe do that with it, or something along those lines. But so I don't know if it's too situational, but it's definitely something that I probably wouldn't run on a consistent basis anyway. Like I said, unless it was going to be a win condition, then I would go ahead and do it. So yeah, those are the new cards there. So let's go ahead and take a look at how the sealed deck tournaments work, and some people were kind of confused on where they were. So basically they are in the tournaments, and you hop in here, and let's see if they've got it working now. Before when I first came here, I just clicked join queue and nothing happened, and it's still doing that way. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to select a queue first, and then you can click join queue, and it'll hop you in here, and then you just have to wait for things to fill up, just like it was before, wait for 8 players to come up, and then you get popped into kind of like a little mini card manager. Well, it is the card manager, and you have 40 cards up top, not including the resources there, or not 40 cards, six booster packs full of cards. So from those cards there, you go ahead and you create your 40 card deck, including resources there. So you're going to be running anywhere between 20 to maybe 19 troops, or maybe you don't want to run that many shards there, but maybe you could run like 15 shards and 25 other cards, or however you see fit there. So it's kind of nice. I've only played in a couple of them, and they haven't actually finished yet. But it is really cool, and it really challenges your ability on how to build a deck with limited cards and what you have presented to you, and what's going to be good, what's not going to be good. How well can I make a deck with random cards, cohesive and synergized together? So it'll definitely test out your skills there, for sure. Other than that, I think that's about all the updates that we've had this week. They did make, like I said, they made a couple UI changes. They changed the champion here. They went to, what's this guy's name? I forget. It starts with a G. But before, I think it was the Paladin that was sitting here. This is the champion, I think, that deals 1 damage and gain 1 health. I just can't remember his name, but no big deal. Other than that, there's some other general UI stuff, some sliders here and there and whatnot. So, other than that, that's going to be the update for this week. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you do, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of these, go ahead and click subscribe, and I'll have another video for you soon.